A very common question that comes from many of our viewers, especially on the H1, L1, H4 visas, where the consular officer keep the case pending under section 221G. And we had opportunity, almost every post we talked about that, why does that happen? So their answer was that basically most of the time that comes from the interview of the applicant. They ask some questions briefly, location, job duties, information about the employer, and the background of the website. They check the website also. Very quickly, in 2 or 3 minutes, they see there's something wrong here. Right? They look into the petition that was filed. It says something different. Because I have seen, unfortunately, some lawyers will jack up. He knows this and that and all different kind of complex duties. When the person goes in and the consul talks to him, and he says, oh no, that I don't know, that I don't know, that I don't know. He said, but your petition says so. So then something wrong here. So he's lying, he's not telling the truth, or this matter needs an investigation because he has on the LCA said he's going to work in New Jersey, but he's talking about going to California. Any of these questions make consular officer to go further processing. In other words, they may want to look at the website, they may want to contact the employers. We're surprised. A couple of cases, the consul got up in the middle of the night around 10 or 11 in the night and called the company and employer to see whether this person coming to your place or not. The employer didn't know anything about it. He said, I don't know nothing about this. So these are the reasons. Now, in some cases, consular tries to figure out how we can resolve this. So they do a 221G and give them a list. They say, let us see. Let's give us a list of documents. How many employees are there, what the employer is doing, what the kind of business they are doing, and they want the detailed financial statements. Or we call it a laundry list. And bring all the documentation in. Now, when that happens, the documentation has to be submitted to OFC. And the OFC will then send them to the consulate. Yep. And then the consulate goes over and make the decision.
That's right.
And sometimes those cases are taken longer than what they think.
That's right. Well, Michael, I think that you're absolutely right. What they're focusing on, it seems to be, is inconsistencies. If they notice that there are inconsistencies in the information that was originally provided and the information that's being provided at the consulate, that, of course, raises a red flag in the mind of the consular officer and causes them to make some additional inquiries. Now, I think it's important for everyone to know that the way that it works with the H-1B is that a copy of your H-1B petition gets sent to what's called PIMS, which is down in Kentucky. That information gets scanned and sent over to the U.S. consulate abroad. Also, what we tend to find is that the U.S. consular officers are using Google Earth and other social media sites and other websites to find information that could potentially be inconsistent about representations that were made on the original H-1B non-immigrant visa applications or in the representations that are made by the individuals who are showing up for interviews to obtain the H-1 or the L visas in India. So if any of these inconsistencies exist, then there's a high likelihood that the individual would be given this laundry list, as you make reference to this laundry list, and then the individual has to provide those documents. Also, we have to keep in mind that we're in an age of tremendous information now, where the U.S. consulate offices have access to information from the Internal Revenue Service, from the Social Security Administration, also from Wage and Hour,
Motor Vehicle Department.
So all of these databases are inextricably, connected. And we, of course, don't exactly know which databases are being checked. And so oftentimes we have clients who will ask us, many years ago I was a student and I took a part-time job and I was issued a W-2. Is that something that's going to affect me when I go for my H-1B processing? Well, many years ago, the advice that we could have given is, you don't have to worry about it too much. But now, if there's a possibility that you may have worked illegally in the United States, that may give us pause and cause for concern, and it should give you, our viewers, cause for concern. Think about what the potential impact would be if you go back for a stamping and the U.S. consulate finds out about that information.
It is not only just for those who are applying for H-1, L1 for the first time. People that have been
Of course,
from
students,
US, they have
visitors,
been here,
everything,
they have
yeah.
been working
That's right.
here on a L1 H1 visa. They changed from visitor or student to H1, and now they
right.
are going for a stamping.
Yeah.
They had a stamping before, and they are going for a new stamping, and that's a whole different subject. On the interview waivers, we can talk about later.
Right.
But basically, what we do when we do a case H1 or L1 for a client, we give them a complete package of what was sent to the immigration office
Exactly.
and what PIMS made it available to the consular. We know the consular officer is looking from that. He's not imagining or dreaming.
That's right.
But you have, the applicant, Mr. Applicant, you have the same package that the consul is going to interview from. Go through completely in details. If you have issues, questions, talk to your employer. Get proper answers about that.
Well, the idea is to eliminate the inconsistency as
Yes.
much as we possibly can. That's
And
the
I'm
idea.
saying that we ought to advise all of our clients that before you go to the interview, contact us and discuss with us, but before going, we want to know, make sure that you are on the right page and you will be able to answer all the questions.
That's right.
Some of them don't, and they just go in unprepared.
And it's great advice, Michael, because a lot of our clients are preparing multiple entry, we call the process of going for a stamping, multiple entry visa processing. And it's so important, especially for individuals who are doing HR and corporations who are sending individuals abroad for their stamping. You need to be aware of several things. One is you need to be aware of the parameters that affect third country processing. When can you send a person to a third country for a visa stamp? There are times you can do it, there are times when you can't do it. Make sure that you know. The other thing is that if you're sending an individual abroad, send them with a full package. Send them with the whole H-1B, send them with the whole L. The reason why, reduce the inconsistencies and the possible red flags that may occur at the U.S. consulates abroad.
Now, this is about the HL visas. Let's talk about immigrant visas also. People in the family categories or the employment categories, they go in for interview and they get a 221G later pending. Once again, I think a lot comes from the interview. Some comes from the documentation also there, because they might have had a marriage registration done without getting married and things like that. So consular officers are looking very closely in those issues. And there is fraudulent marriage, right? The consul is going to keep the case pending. Every consular post has a unit there called FPU. FPU,
Okay.
Fraud Prevention Unit.
Right.
And they send the file to FPU to do the investigation.
Right.
So they want to see, is this marriage valid and bona fide? There are two issues in every marriage, every divorce. Valid means it must be done valid, even if it's real, but they registered prior to the ceremony. It's not a valid marriage. It's bona fide, real marriage, but not valid because they did not take the right course of action. Divorce. Some people in stamp paper they buy in a court and they sign, both of them, and maybe really they are divorcing. But that's not the way the council is going to accept. He says you should have gone to court and get a court decree of divorce. And then again, there are which divorce is not really bona fide, not credible. He's just divorcing somebody to help somebody. This is how many cases we have seen. Divorced the real wife, but he's actually staying with her still on the paper only. Then he married someone, that woman that he wants to help to get a green card. Consuls have a lot of experience. They see these cases every day.
That's right.
Fraudulent marriage, fraudulent divorce,
Right.
all those issues.
Well, I think that, Michael, when that issue came up at the U.S. consulates, I think that the consular officers really appreciated the fact that we brought to their attention that what we do in our outreach to the public is that we try to explain how important it is not to do anything that's fraudulent, not to make misrepresentations, because these are all things that are going to convolute your case and make it more difficult and even possibly lead to the potential for you to be barred permanently from the United States.
Actually, when we had a seminar in Mumbai, in the Indo-American Society, we spent quite a bit of time in explaining them about the serious consequences of committing fraud or misrepresentation. For how many years? My God, 25, 30 years we've been writing articles, doing TV program, telling people, don't commit fraud, don't commit fraud, don't commit fraud. It's still almost every day, every week, we see cases where people come when they have made a misrepresentation, maybe done a fraud. And in the lecture that we did, we always said also something about culturally. I mean, I'm not justifying. I'm saying some problem coming from the culture also. People talk to travel agents, talk to agents, talk to the relatives. Oh, he did that, she did that, he told me to do this, she told me to do this.
Right.
Also, basically,
But just so you know, this is endemic of other cultures too. It's not just the Indian culture that does that. It's endemic of cultures from South America, Central America, and it was really interesting to talk to the consular officers who served in high fraud units to hear what they had to say about the continuing issues that they confront. So that was very helpful to me to hear, yeah.
yeah, so basically, one of the consular officers actually came from an area when we were talking with the heavy fraud, and
That's
she
right.
said that,
Exactly.
I know what you are talking about.
Exactly.
But there are a lot of different kind of frauds that misrepresentation do. For example, adding a child of somebody else.
Right.
I mean, it's very serious. It results not only in a fraud charge, it results in a smuggling charge.
Right.
So there's a marriage fraud, there's a divorce fraud, there's adoption fraud. Basically, I adopted this child 20 years ago, but
Well, it was interesting also that I think this came, I can't remember which consulate this came up in, but there was a discussion about that the consulate had made the additional inquiry about the child, and then you had agreed, well, why don't we submit DNA?
yeah,
And
that
then-
was a genuine
yeah.
case. They had a doubt, and I
Yeah.
say, listen, they wanted the photos for the child from birth. He's now 50 years old.
Right.
They want photos from the childhood until now.
Right.
And some people have photos, some people have some few photos, but not very old, recent. And they keep on denying it. No, photos. But we say, we don't have the photos. God, let us do the DNA test. I mean, take the blood test, do the blood test is the final thing.
Exactly.
And we're not getting anywhere with that case until we talk to the council, and they agreed, yes, that is a good way to do it, and then they accepted that they will permit the
Yeah.
DNA
But
test.
look what it took to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a
6
problem.
months took to asking them.
Well, they're not out-of-the-box thinkers, especially at OFC. You're not getting people who, and that was one of the other issues that came up at one of the consulates.
The
where we-
communication issue.
Yeah, but that was, remember, we had the issue
Yes.
come up with the joint sponsor.
Exactly.
Where we have an individual who clearly measures now, because last year they needed a joint sponsor, but now this year, because the tax returns can be done for April, right, they don't need a joint sponsor. So the OFC said, we need a joint sponsor,
Because the
but they
letter
don't
said-
need a joint
No,
sponsor.
but the
Right.
council officer said,
Don't need it.
that,
But you have to
but they
explain it.
said that the reason they do it, that we have made it absolutely clear to them, that you strictly, you don't have any opportunity or a right or to bypass anything. If we say we want A, B, C, you must get A, B, C. So he understands, try to in a way defend OFC, that if we said you need a joint sponsor, but he doesn't understand what's a sponsor, what's a joint sponsor. OFC, paper says joint sponsor, give me the joint sponsor, give me the joint sponsor.
Right.
So the council said, so how do we resolve then? That's your policy strictly to follow, and that's not reasonable. They said, at least it was nice, bring to our attention. As a matter of fact, I talked to them and we both talked to them. There may be some situations, any kind of denial, it may be a visitor visa, a student visa, it may be immigrant visa, that we really believe that somebody has made a very wrong judgment, or maybe lack of documentation, or maybe problem on the part of our clients in not submitting the correct information, or maybe in the interview saying something that was misleading or confusion.
Right, right.
And it's a good case. And I had so many of those cases where on the trying and sending an email or contacting the consul and saying, this is the guy. He has got awards from the President of India, the Government of India, or the very big Bollywood director. Where the 214 be coming from?
Right.
And when they saw that, yeah, okay, that's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had just real cases that there's a Chinese restaurant in Pune, in India, and that guy was there, when he there 20 or 30, I just had a dinner with him when I went to Pune this time.
Okay, yeah.
All the consuls, when used to go to Pune a lot for investigation, and there was a center there that where Americans used to die also with the drugs and all that. And then they used to eat the Chinese food all the time. So this guy once decided to come to US to visit the family here. Went in and 214B denial. Big beautiful restaurant, 25 years. They eat at his restaurant all the time. So I just contacted the consul. I said, listen, you guys know this person? He said, oh yeah, excellent food. We go there all the time. So when he came for a visa, you deny. I said, no, that cannot happen. How would you deny? Well, we know the guy very well. We talked to him also. He was very short, that kind of guy. He didn't want to raise that issue. Just contacted me because humility, humble. So then they immediately said, no, it must be a mistake. Please tell him to come back and be sorry. They told him we are very sorry when he went in. Again, we're very sorry. We didn't recognize you and you didn't mention that you are a Chinese restaurant and we come to your place. And he said, well, I didn't think it was
So
appropriate or
issue
necessary.
resolved. Issue resolved. That's great.
So that thing, I think we are about finished. Actually, we already are over the time now. And we come to the end of the program. David, thank you very much. And thank all of you for watching the program. Any questions, comments, or suggestions you have, please contact us and we'll be more than happy to respond to you. Thank you very much and goodbye.